On the Democratic side, all the candidates who are running could still fit in a Nissan Sentra with room for an intern to be driving. Right? There's only 3 declared Democratic candidates so far. But on the Democratic side, even though there's only 3 declared candidates, it is at least getting a bit more kinetic and more interesting to watch. Former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley was ahead of everybody else in saying that he would likely run for president in 2016. He's been saying it forever and ever and ever. It hasn't been a secret. This weekend, on Saturday, he made it official. He spoke before a crowd of a few hundred people in Baltimore's Federal Hill. Martin O'Malley has been pretty obviously preparing for longer than almost anybody else in the race to launch this big campaign for the White House. But when he finally did it, just before he hit the stage for his big rally, his big announcement, he had a bad audio-visual snafu.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a very special video presentation.
We'd like to make an announcement. We will not stick our finger in the air to see which way the wind is blowing. We will take stands, important ones.
I believe that we are standing at the threshold of a new era of American opportunity. And if only we have the gut and have the courage.
I've been there. I mean, I haven't been there like running for president, been there, but I've been there. Oh. Martin O'Malley's big campaign kickoff was on Saturday. It was, in addition to that little snafu, it was apparently very hot, as in temperature hot. A lot of his supporters apparently showed up late due to the heat. And then they had the snafu. Former governor, ended up making his announcement, though. Despite all of that, he flew from his hot snafu in Maryland, flew right to Iowa for the first leg of his campaign. Meanwhile, former Rhode Island governor and former Republican Lincoln Chafee is expected to announce his candidacy for president, for the Democratic nomination for president. He's due to announce the day after tomorrow. He'll be announcing on Wednesday at a speech at George Mason University. But the big winner this week on the Democratic side, or on any side, has inarguably got to be Bernie Sanders. Just days after he had his big campaign rally kickoff in Burlington, Vermont, Bernie Sanders ended up in Iowa speaking to a packed house in Davenport, Iowa. The organizers had to open a wall to make room for the crowd. The New York Times is describing that crowd in Davenport as the largest crowd attracted by any candidate from either party in Iowa all year. Bernie Sanders. Then on Saturday, folks at a local brewery in Ames, Iowa, were clamoring to get a seat to see him speak. People who couldn't get into the brewery were still hanging out, trying to peek through the windows, trying to be part of it, even though they couldn't fit in the room. Yesterday, again, Bernie Sanders spoke to a crowd, this time of almost 3,000 people. In Minneapolis, the room got so crowded that the overflow crowd spilled into the plaza outside, everybody turning out to see Bernie. Now, obviously, it's still very, very early in the race. It's so early in the race, you can't even yet call it a race. So it is still very early to extrapolate from all this. But honestly, ever since Bernie Sanders has gotten in, it has been good news for Bernie Sanders after good news for him after good news for him in terms of the big crowd at his campaign launch last Monday, the very positive media coverage his campaign has been getting along the campaign trail, the millions of dollars his campaign has raised since he launched, outpacing all of the Republican campaigns in the terms of the fundraising in the days after he launched. I mean, for whatever reason, the Bernie Sanders boomlet, this boomlet that Bernie Sanders is enjoying is not one that Martin O'Malley has been able to enjoy, at least not since his big campaign kickoff on Saturday. He hasn't been drawing in nearly as big a crowds as Bernie Sanders did this weekend. For whatever reason, that big campaign kickoff Martin O'Malley didn't work out for him in the same way, but the campaign kickoff really does seem to have worked for Senator Sanders. I mean, the Beltway media has been thinking of Bernie Sanders as an asterisk in this campaign, right? As kind of the Dennis Kucinich character this year, but he has not been functioning that way at all. And in the meantime, there is the inevitable Democratic nominee, right? Hillary Clinton. You may have heard that Hillary Clinton has already launched her campaign. That is formally true. However, today her campaign announced that she is having her first major campaign rally on June 13th, which is a week from this Saturday. It's going to be held at the Four Freedoms Park, which is on Roosevelt Island in New York City. This rally is going to be open to the public. You can register for tickets already at the Hillary Clinton website. That event at Four Freedoms Park is going to be followed by an organizing meeting in Iowa before Hillary Clinton begins a quick tour through the 4 earliest states in the primary season. So for Hillary Clinton supporters, there is that to look forward to. But what about this Bernie Sanders dynamic and the way it's playing out right now? I mean, Bernie Sanders has been experiencing this incredibly positive launch. And really, at this point, nobody's giving him a shot at actually winning the nomination. But given the shape of the field, given the huge, perhaps prohibitive lead that Hillary Clinton has in terms of locking up the nomination on the Democratic side, what does it mean if Bernie Sanders continues to do as well as he has been doing? How does that affect not just the primary contest for the Democratic nomination, but also the race overall and the state of presidential politics? Joining us now is Kurt Meyer. He's chair of the Tri-County Iowa Democrats, which includes Worth County, where Bernie Sanders held a rally Saturday. 300 people turning out to see him in a town of Kensett, which I believe is a town that has a population of less than 300. Mr. Meyer, thanks very much for being here. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Is it fair to say that the size of the crowd that turned out to see Bernie Sanders this weekend is larger than the population of the town in which he was speaking?
Yes, that is a fair statement. There are about 240 people that live in beautiful Kensett, and there were a little over 300 people that came to hear Bernie on Saturday.
And when you cover an event like that, or when you see you see people turn out for an event like that, is it familiar faces to you as a Democratic activist and as an organizer? Is it all people that you know and who've been involved in the past, or who are you seeing turn out?
There were a number of familiar faces, and certainly the tried and true were there. Some of them are Bernie supporters. Some of them are interested in hearing what Bernie has to say. But there were also people that hadn't been involved before, people that were new to me. People that I had the pleasure to introduce myself to. They arrived in some cases early enough that I could exchange pleasantries, hear a little bit about who they were. And it'll be interesting to see if these people are committed Bernie Sanders soldiers, because obviously they were pretty lit up on Friday or Saturday evening.
I got to think, if I put myself in the shoes, or at least in the mindset of an Iowa Democrat, somebody who's interested in politics and comes at it from a left center or left point of view in Iowa, you've got to feel like your conservative friends, that people who are Republican minded in Iowa, are sort of getting super served by their candidates, by the fact that Republicans have been camped out there for so long. Is some of this just pent up debate to hear Democratic talk, to see any Democratic candidates turn out?
I think that may explain some of it. I think that there are naturally people that are going to come to Kensett because Kensett has waited a long time between presidents or presidential candidates coming. There's a story that FDR perhaps came through on the whistle stop in 1936, but only came through town, didn't stop and talk in town. So, you know, that's a long way to wait. And so you can imagine that some people would come just because a presidential candidate is a rare occurrence in Kensett. At the same time, people came because they wanted to hear Bernie's message. They wanted to interact with him. They wanted to, get the flavor of this campaign. And I think there was a lot of energy and enthusiasm in the room that evening.
What is that energy and enthusiasm and those numbers? What do you think the message of that is for the Hillary Clinton folks?
Well, I think that they're very capable of drawing their own messages, but I think that if you have a candidate who is drawing large, enthusiastic, committed crowds, I think that bears watching, and I think they're very smart people, and I think that they're probably going to be attentive to it. I think they have been all along.
Kurt Meyer, chair of the Tri-County Iowa Democrats. Thanks very much for letting us know what it's like there. I'd love to keep checking in with you as the season gets riper and riper.
My pleasure. Great to talk with you.
Thanks, you too. All right. We got lots more ahead on this very, very, very busy news day, including the latest strange new element of a very strange story involving former Speaker of the House, Denny Hastert. Lots ahead. Stay with us.